Hello everyone. I'm not quite ready to do builds with the fin yet, or for that matter, like truly discuss it. Um, while I think I have an idea as to what the numbers are and what its uses are, I am going to wait until Ace or another reputable source post something so that I have something to confirm my findings with. I'm very careful like that. But I will do my best to talk about what little I know and go from there. Before we get into the discussion, I just want to take a moment to rant about the YouTube videos. People are jumping the gun way too quickly. It's fine to have an opinion, but that's within reason. These YouTube videos are saying that you should do this build without actually knowing the gun. Even I don't know the gun fully yet. And to make it even worse, I would say 7 YouTube videos are the exact same build. It's always the long barrel, whether it be adverse or normal, Tac Laser, Commando Foregrip, no stock. Like, come on, you aren't an original. These are bandwagon attachments. Like, almost everybody runs those attachments. You're not original. You know, if you're going to come out with a build, at least do something different. Don't copy the same person over and over again. Okay, with the rant out of my system, let's go ahead and break down the attachments. Okay, so Commando Foregrip is minus 2 to 3% movement speed. That may not seem like much to people, as I've said before, but once you start putting in long barrels and things like that, it adds up. Normally, a long barrel is minus 4% movement speed for a gun. Okay, so by the time you add a Commando Foregrip to that, it's going to be at the worst minus 7% movement speed. That's a huge penalty to take. Huge. In Warzone, mobility is just as important as ADS and some of the other ones. But I would never put movement speed over ADS if I can help it. The reason being is that for guns that are meant to be used at range, you have the safety bubble to work with a slower ADS. You have more time and more space to get your optic or iron sight on the target. So LMGs are of that category because they have good range for the most part. Besides the fin, we'll get into that in a minute. Because they have good range, you are more than capable of utilizing even out to 425 millisecond ADS time. That's about what the PKM build is that I've been using as late. So yeah, in that scenario, just as long as you keep your distance, you can make that 424 milliseconds work. So yeah, never penalize your movement speed. Movement speed is survival in Warzone. Moving on to Tac Laser now. So Tac Laser increases your ADS time by 20%. In the Fin's case, that's 350 millisecond ADS time base, so you'd have to get 20% of that to know how much faster you're going. While it is a big number, you have to realize that the Tac Laser is very visible. If you're using a Tac Laser on the Fin, there's no point in doing a monolithic suppressor because everybody's going to see it. And we'll go into that in a minute. But the idea behind the Tac Laser is really to work with or help guns that use a lot of range, so like a sniper rifle. Okay, now we'll talk about why. So, from what I know, the Tac Laser is visible out to 70 meters. The Fin is not a 70-meter gun. It's not. Sniper rifles are because they're hitting at 100 meters, but the Fin is not. So, the only time that you would ever use a Tac Laser is on a weapon that's not going to be within 70 meters, and unfortunately the Fin's just that. So there's no point in running a Tac Laser. You've already negated the purpose of the Fin with that attachment. So yeah, people need to get in their head that's the mentality you need to have with Tac Laser. Okay, so seeing as we're talking about attachments, let's go ahead and talk about the barrels now. With the Fin, as you can see, the damage ranges as well as the damage changes depending on if you're using the normal or adverse barrels. If you're using the normal barrels, it will have a higher per bullet damage. If you're using adverse, it will have a lower per bullet damage. If I remember right, Exclusive Ace discovered it was 38 and 28 at the best. So 28 damage per bullet is kind of out towards RAM and M4 territory, and 38 damage, which is the normal barrel, is going to be much closer to the AK. So yeah, you have to keep that in mind when you're deciding which barrel to use. Once you've kind of understood how these barrels work, then you have to determine its purpose. And we'll go into that a little bit later, but let's go ahead and compare it to some of the other LMGs as well as the AK, so you can see some of the differences here and kind of how to think about this stuff. So the closest comparison to a normal barrel fin would be an SA87 because they're both AR-like LMGs. So the SA87 has a base range of 46 meters. You can see that right here. It has a lot of range for base. It's not normal for a gun to be having such high base, for an automatic at least. But anyways, yes, the SA87 is 46 meters. If we come back to the fin, you'll notice it's not quite out there even with its normal barrel. It's sitting out past 25 meters. I'm guessing it's 30-31 meters, somewhere around there. So 30-31 meters is barely more range than a base RAM. A base RAM is, I think, 27 meters if my memory is correct. So already you're shorter than an SA7 and almost comparable to a RAM, which is not good because the RAM has a faster time to kill than a fin on its normal barrel. One other comparison that we should be making in the LMG category is the PKM. The PKM is perhaps the only LMG that's in a good enough position to challenge the AK, and I'll show you why in a minute. But the PKM, with its 25.9-inch heavy, has an effective range out to 52 meters. That's a lot of range for a 100-round belt LMG. Not only that, it backs it up with a very fast time to kill of 553 milliseconds. So yes, the PKM is a monster in Warzone. Sure, it's not as mobile as the SA87 or the Fin, but it is actually close to a kilos movement. From what I've seen with kilos in Warzone, the meta seems to be the longest barrel monolithic suppressor, Commando Foregrip. No idea why. And the attachments after that vary, but those are the ones you commonly see. So I'd have to go back and do the math, but I'm fairly positive that a kilo with the Commando Foregrip and longest barrel is 85% movement speed. The PKM with its snatch grip and 25.9-inch barrel is actually 86% movement speed. There is a difference in time to draw the weapons, of course, as well as ADS time, but movement speed-wise, the PKM is pretty much close to what the meta kilo is. So yeah, this is actually a very fine weapon to use. So yeah, the Fin will definitely struggle, as well as the 87. They'll both struggle to deal with the PKM. But all these LMGs will struggle to deal with an AK. If you'll notice with the AK, this bar doesn't change as long as you're hitting the upper torso. You'll notice that it maintains this green bar all the way out past 100 meters if you're hitting the upper torso. So yeah, the AK is the king of range. And people will always say, oh, it has a lot of kick. Well, that's just because you picked up the base AK. Of course it's going to have a lot of kick. Look at this crap right here. If you pick up a ground loot AK like you have in previous seasons, don't let that negative experience hold you back from using an AK. The problem with the ground loot is they never have the proper attachments. You really need the RPK barrel to see a difference in its recoil. Because look, this is how much the RPK barrel changes the AK. And if you still have trouble with the recoil, you can go up to a Romanian barrel. Look how much tighter that gets. Yes, you'll be taking a higher ADS penalty, but at least you'll be less recoil. So don't let bad experiences keep you away from the AK, because this is the king of range, as far as I'm able to tell. The only thing that could potentially deal with an AK is the FAL. At 55 meters, out to 55 meters, excuse me, the FAL will do a lot of damage and kill a lot quicker than the AK. But that's only depending on the person's accuracy between the two, AK versus FAL. If both are 100% accuracy, then the FAL will win for sure against an AK. So, but yeah, so that's kind of what you have to think about with the fin. Those are probably some of the best comparisons that I can give you. Now that we've talked about the comparisons, let's talk about potential uses. So we know the fin's going to struggle to win at range against a PKM and quite possibly an SA87 or AK. So at that point, I would try looking to see if it can handle a PDW role. Right now, the Ram fills that role of being a PDW because it has very good mobility, very good range, and very good ADS. So if it can handle the PDW role, the question would be, can it be better than the Ram? Because on its adverse barrel, it will have more time to kill, or I'm sorry, faster time to kill than the Ram by a significant margin. So at that point, then the question becomes, it will have better ADS and other things than the Ram. Range-wise, it's not going to, because you'll notice right here that its damage drop-off starts right about here before the 25-meter line. The Ram, like I said, I think is 27 meters, so it's going to be kind of like over here. So I'd have to see what it is with a long barrel and all the other attachments, but we're already off to an iffy start in the PDW role just because it's not doing any better than the Ram. So I would have to see what its numbers are with the longest barrel, and also I'd have to see what its numbers are with the CT rounds. More than likely, you'll want to use CT rounds to get its ADS down further. But the problem with its CT rounds is it lowers not only damage range, but velocity. And those are two things that really hurt on a weapon in Warzone. So, yeah, I'm not really too sure about that, but that's kind of my predictions right now. If you want to read more into this, I've put up the time to kill values on all these. If you just go over to the range slides in any one of these, you'll find that below it I have assuming 3 armor plates, and that's what I always do. When I'm talking numbers, I'm always assuming 3 armor plates. But yeah, you'll see it right here, assuming 3 armor plates. I have all the numbers listed for each one. SA87's here, PKM's over here, AK's right here, so you just have to scroll through these to see the numbers. But there you have it. That's kind of where I'm at with the fin, at least until I can get some more confirmation of what I'm seeing. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Thanks for listening.